Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to HJ and Professional Beauty's Tough Talk. I'm really pleased to introduce Bruno Giamattei, or Bruno Marc, who's guest today. And welcome to our viewers in India, Dubai, South Africa, and in Ireland, and of course the UK. Relatively short session. We want to get down to the business of running salons, and hopefully with Bruno's experience he can share just a little bit and we can learn. So Bruno Marc, 5 successful salons across southern England. Bruno is a member of the British Hairdressing Hall of Fame, having won numerous awards. He's also ambassador for the Fellowship of British Hairdressing, and he's in demand both as a hairdresser and salon stylist, and internationally as his role as ambassador for Joico. He also leads the Marc Antoni art team, which is recognized across the world. Bruno, welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Mark. That was some intro. Thank you.
So I'm talking mainly today in the short time about business.
Yeah.
I'm told you were also, you weren't going to be a hairdresser, you were going to play football. Tell us about that.
Yeah, well, I mean, when I was at schoolboy level, I had a choice of signing up with Fulham or Reading, and I chose Reading because it was my hometown. And to move the story on really quickly, I also played for Berkshire scrum half at rugby, and I snapped my collarbone in 2 places playing rugby. And it was the year just as I was leaving school to start my 2-year apprenticeship. And so my apprenticeship got pulled short because when you break your collarbone in 2 places, you can't run, you can't do press ups or anything. So I joined my father in the Marc Antoni's first salon that my father started, which was a unisex salon. Half was ladies, half was men's, and you had 2 separate doors because it wasn't mixed back then. And yeah, I worked there and I carried on training and playing football. And I revisited football back at 19, and then I got picked up as a semi-pro, and I played semi-pro right up until I was 35 and getting paid, which was great.
Was there any learnings from football that bit of a different profession to hairdressing, but anything that you could...
Well, you can imagine, Mark, I had long hair then. I looked like something like out of Dollar or Bucks Fizz, long hair, lots of highlights, the mullet, a bit like an ABBA takeoff, and you can imagine the stick I got, especially when I transferred to another club. You know, they put this new sign in. What does he do? He's a hairdresser. So I'd walk into the changing room with my long blonde hair, and they all had crew cuts and he-men. And as soon as they realised how I hit people on the football pitch, because I used to love the rugby side of my game, they took me on board. So it was great.
So tell me, you're not the only person in the business who's worked in through family. You work with 3 brothers in the business at the moment now.
Yes. I mean, I've got me and Simon are 18 months apart. So me and Simon took over the business when I was 33, Simon was 32, and my dad retired because my father's 20 years older than me. Exactly. So he retired and went off to Italy, and we took over the business, and we had 1 salon at the time. And we paid my father a rent. And basically I said to Simon, look, we've got to get to more salons to make that rent less on us. And we expanded the company. And in the space of 8 years, we got up to 7 salons. And it was all going really well. But I think out of the 2 of us, me and Simon, I'm the kind of racehorse. I just go steam ahead into everything, and I'm willing to take a risk and a gamble. Whereas Simon is a lot more cautious and looks at all the figures, although he's a hairdresser as well, but he was always the more cautious one, and would say, you know, we've got to watch this, watch that. Whereas I was basically treating it all like Monopoly money. We can do it, it'll be fine. And on a wing and a prayer, we just went forward. And then when we got to 7 salons, I felt, in my head, I thought when we had 2, when we went to 4, we double what we had when we had 2. When we went to 6, we double again. It doesn't work like that, as you know. Everything is more outgoings, more costs, more people taken on board to actually run the business from within. So we looked at the business when we had 7 salons, and it was a bit of my ego because I wanted to get to 10. I really wanted to push for 10 salons, and I thought I'd be comfortable there. And we got to 7, and then Simon, as you know, my brother, he got leukemia, was diagnosed with leukemia. And it just changed everything. It changed our whole outlook on where we were going to go in business, because I thought I was going to lose my brother, my right arm. And he was diagnosed with a couple of years to live. And now it's been 6 years and he's still with us. And we closed down 2 of the salons literally within 12 months of one another, and went to 5 that we could cope with easily. And Simon stepped away from the chair and just run the business from his home and computer. And we just reevaluated everything we did, and we take now more holidays, we spend more family time. And I think what I would say to people out there, and I've had many discussions with the likes of Stel from Rush, and they always used to say to me, how come you haven't got more salons? Why don't you go more? And my biggest, answer to that is why. And it's about value of life at the end of the day. You can have a great value of life with 1 salon as opposed to 200 salons. So it's what you really want. And I think I was gung-ho and a little bit reckless, and I wanted to get to 10 salons. And if I look back now, I'd say it was pure ego, because money-wise, opening up from salon 5, 6, and 7 didn't make me a lot more money. But it just gave me, oh, that guy's got 7 salons. And when you're mixing in the hairdressing gang, as it were, oh, that's Marc Antoni, they're a good brand, they've got 7 salons. It shouldn't be about that. There's people like Mark Blake, who's got a couple of salons in Gloucestershire, who's really well known, and he's got 2 amazing salons. And I've learned over the years, it's about, turnover and profit. It's okay bragging that it turns over this, but it's all about the underscore, the profit. And that's what makes it.
Do you find you're closer to your customers because you have less outlets?
I wouldn't say I'm close to the customers. I think although I've got this, artist, I'm the international art director for Marc Antoni on my price list. It means I can charge a lot more money. But I'm a hairdresser at the end of the day, and I give 100% to my clients. And the way we've got a brother in all the salons, and I've got good managers. So we've got this family way that we run things. And we were brought up as an Italian family around the dinner table. We could never eat without my father around the table every morning and evening. And that's how we were brought up. And we'd have a shout and a yell, and then we move on. But that's how things are.
So you've got what sounds to me a very strong relationship with your siblings. There are obviously pluses and minuses. What would you advise people who have relatives in the business on how to deal with them?
I think you've all got to know your place and know your strengths and your weaknesses. For example, when we sat down as a 4, when the other 2 younger ones joined us later on, because Marcus and Aaron are 10 years younger than me and Simon. So Aaron is 10 years younger than me, and then there's 18 months again between him and Marcus. It's a bit like my mum and dad only did it at certain times of the year. But no, we all know our place, and Marcus and Aaron take up all the training and MVQ with all the youngsters in our salons from when they first join at 16 through to 18 until they're on the salon floor. And Simon takes more care of the running side, the business, and I'm kind of the face, the arty-farty person, as my brother Simon says. But it's something that I don't mind doing. Simon, when we go to the awards, and Aaron, Marcus is okay, but Aaron and Simon don't like mixing and, chatting with everyone. It's not their bag. Whereas Marcus is in the art team, and he knows that when we're out there, we're kind of everybody's property. So you have to mix, speak to people, and I've always done that in my career anyway. I'm quite open. I give everyone the answers that they ask me for, and that's how I've always been.
You mentioned the art side. Do you think hairdressers in general, because UK hairdressing is still very much a focal point for creativity. We're still seen as probably one or the place to come and see for that. Do you think, though, hairdressers spend too much time on that emphasis as opposed to running their business?
100%. 100%. And I can say that because I had to run my very first salon when I was 20 years old. So my father opened up another salon and I ran it. And then he closed down the other one. So I was running a salon. And, you know, me and Simon both worked together and we built up to the 5 salons, but we didn't really know about the business. We knew what it would take to open up a salon, what the staff would do. And it wasn't until I met Stephen Macias, when I was 34 years old, I met Stephen Macias and Brian Willoughby, who was head of L'Oreal. And they taught me about business and structure. And I took it all on board. And wherever I felt I was weak, I used and paid other people to give me the advice. And they taught me so much because it's little things. Back then we were cash rich, whereas now everything is credit card and we don't get any cash. So I would basically, my magazines, my newspapers, the coffee, the tea, everything was paid cash. Yeah, that's how we did things then. Whereas now everything is online. We order it in, we pay, you know, monthly or yearly. Our coffees, everything. We have big coffee machines now, whereas before it was a big, you know, tin of Nescafe, a spoon, and we'd make it ourselves. Now you have, you know, hair salons have all these machines. We're like, you know, A1 cafes. You press a button, it gives you cappuccino. You want Americano. You know, we're all like that, and yet we don't pay for it. Or sorry, we don't charge the customer individually for that on their bill. It's kind of included because we all go now for this 5-star salon service, which back in my day, it was about bums on seats, churn them in, churn them out. Now, hairdressers will do maybe 8 clients a day, if that, and they think they're busy and that's it. But the spend on those 8 clients can be, 8 clients can bring you in £500-600 now. Whereas back in my day, I'd be turning out 25 clients a day and turning out maybe £250. So that's the difference where it's gone.
Listen, thinking back of your time, what is your greatest cock-up or your greatest cock-ups?
Well, you know, when I said to my wife, what would you say is my greatest cock-up? And she goes, what do you mean? I said, well, I personally think my greatest cock-up is thinking that I could launch a hair professional brand. And she goes, no, it's not, because you've done it. And I launched Teo, which stood for the art of hair, in October 2016. And I read a massive article in one of the magazines on the Moscolo brothers when they launched TG. And then they sold it X amount of years on for so many millions. And me being me, the racehorse in me thought, I can do that, no problem. So I went out, I invested £250,000 and I got my brand. But what I didn't think about, and this is where I thought the industry, I knew I was kind of loved by our industry and I knew everybody and I knew all the editors and all the magazine people and all the right people, but I didn't allow for marketing my brand. And that was a massive cock up, because what I realize now, and I know now, is anyone can make a brand, but to bring it to market and distribute it is the hardest thing. And I've
Have we lost Bruno's sound? Have we lost your sound? I can't hear you. Can we hear Bruno?
Hello, you're back.
Yeah, now we can. We got you back. Go on. Sorry, Bruno.
So I would say, if you're going to, and I've had many chats with Mark Woolley on this, because Mark thought the same as me, that when he launched Electric, these salons would take it all on, but they don't. And I don't know if it's a little bit of, you know, they don't want to feather your nest, or they see you being a little bit more successful. But obviously I found that really hard, stressful, launching Teo. And there's at times, because I took the lead on it with my brothers, they were constantly banging down my door saying, you know, we've invested this, we've invested that, we need to pull the plug. And I'm like, no, I'm not prepared to, because my ego and my determination was I'm going to succeed. And we're doing well now. We've got it into about 15 salons, which is not a lot. And it just ticks over and it kind of washes its face with it. But it's not where I want to be. And it's really hard. So, yeah, I would say that is I would regard that as a cock up. Other people, like my wife, says no, it's not, because you've got it to market. But I think that is not as successful and where I want to be with it. So to me, that's one of my biggest cock ups.
And look, we've all had a pretty rubbish year this last 12 months. Is there anything that you could look, if you're looking back over the last 12, 14 months, that you did that was particularly good and that you could advise other people, or particularly not good and you'd do something again?
What now, looking back on my business and how I've done things, I wish, and it's brought it all to the point now, I wish I'd have bought all freehold properties rather than pay rents, because my rents are like 38, 35, £29,000 rents. And interest rates at the price they are now, I could afford to buy properties outright and still pay that type of money. But at least I'd have a nest egg at the end of it, or a pension fund. So for me, I would say to any hairdresser now, especially in these times, speak to your landlords, renegotiate your rents, because we're doing that with ours. And that's a big point of call at the moment, because if you can get your rents down in these terms, because the landlords, you've kind of got them a little bit in the sense that you can either walk away and liquidate, or you go ahead, but they've got to revise their terms for you. So I would tell all hairdressers to, even if you haven't got a rent review, to get hold of your landlords, review your rent, because we're not bringing in any money at the moment. So it's a must to get your rents down or renegotiate your rents.
I mean, irrespective of COVID, hairdressing, I can't have a haircut from you online. The industry draws people into the high street. Do you feel that, irrespective of COVID, landlords have realised that or not realised that?
I'll give you an example. Our Woodley salon is 1,000 square feet, and we pay 35,000 rent for that salon. We're looking at a salon which is literally 100 metres down the road, and it's 3,500 square feet, and they want 30,000 rent. So this is where you need to negotiate. And when it comes to social media, you picked up on it about you can't do your own hair. One of my pet hates in this lockdown is top hairdressers, which, I will say top hairdressers that are out there showing people how to cut hair. And what that does, in my opinion, it makes us hairdressers' demeanor look smaller. I don't think it makes us look good at all. Because, you're just the hairdresser. People already say, you're just the hairdresser. And now you've got top hairdressers showing people how to cut their own hair. When they come to your salon, you're charging £100, yet now you're showing them and saying, it's easy. So for me to see that, I would never do that, because I feel our hairdressing skills, it takes a lot, 2 to 3 years for a hairdresser. And we are devalued enough as it is. And all these silly hairdressers that want their fame time on social media, in my opinion, it's ridiculous. I believe in, if I'm going to share something, then people have got to pay, because I've got 40 years of skill in my hands and it's valuable to the industry. So why would I go out there and put everything on social media and show people how to cut hair for free? I think it's stupid. It's discrediting our industry as a whole. And I've seen many salon owners in this lockdown, female and men, doing their own hair, showing people how to do it. And then when we go back and we're 30% down with clients, why? I just think it's ridiculous.
We're getting quite a lot of questions come in, Bruno, and I've got one from Colette Osborne. What is the one bit of critical advice you would give any want-to-be salon owner? So,
for me, back in the day, I used to go out and I used to look for a premises, and I'd sit opposite that premises with a coffee and I'd watch the footfall of people go past, the ambience of the place. And that was as far as it went. I didn't do no other planning. And I'd say nowadays, because of social media, you don't need the footfall or the A1 places anymore. You can build up a reputation online. I mean, like the guy from Bad Apple, he's incredible. And it's all about planning your business and assessing the risks. Back in my day, it was a case of, can I afford the rent? Yes, I can. Steam straight ahead, and I just went for it. Whereas now, I think people setting out, you have to plan a lot more. You have to work not for just the first year, but plan for the next 3 years. Make sure that you can cover the rent. Have a system where you've got X amount of hairdressers with this price list is going to take you this amount, so it will cover the rent, it will make me money. And it's all more about figures now and what you're going to turn over and the percentage and how many clients you need in a salon. I know now in my salon, if I'm doing 160 clients a week in each salon, then I've got a great business. Back in the day, we used to do 225 plus a week, even more than that. But now I've got a system where I've got 12 chairs in every salon. We have 6 stylists in every salon. We do X amount of clients, and I know that that figure or that recipe works. And it's all about working out your prices, how much your rent's going to be, what you're going to take from each individual stylist. And it's all about the figures now. Everything's about the figures. But you've got the advantage now that I never had, social media.
You talk about social media. You've got quite, or Marc Antoni's got quite a big following. What advice do you have on that? I mean, are you good at it personally? Do you have?
I am basically, I mean, I started off doing LinkedIn like everybody. Then everyone told me to switch to Instagram. You have to do this. Now, then you have to do Facebook. And I followed a guy, and I've had many chats with a guy called Stephen Bartlett, who is a social media guru. He's fantastic, and he's a billionaire. And I'm still no good at social media. In fact, Joico, I am their ambassador for Europe and the UK and Ireland. And they would tell you, if you spoke to Danielle or Wendy, I find the social media stuff is just not my bag. I cannot stand there. I've done it, but to me, to stand doing a blockhead, talking to, the screen.
Do you have somebody within the group specialising in that? One of your brothers, one of the team members?
Yes, we've got my niece Jasmine, who lives in Abu Dhabi. She runs the Marc Antoni social media, and she's phenomenal. We used to have one Instagram for each salon. Now we've brought them all together with Jasmine, and we've just got one, and it covers all the 5 salons.
And any particular tips you'd say for any salon owner on how to use it, or not, what not to do, or what to do?
For me, it's personal. It's personal. The youngsters out there today, when I watch these pictures and these images and people cutting hair and producing work, I look at it and think it's awful. And yet they will get 16,000 likes and everyone saying, oh my God, you're amazing and wonderful. And I think that person can't even cut a straight line. It's that bad. So I'm seeing it as an old man's eye and totally different. I feel now social media is all a little bit more fluffy, and it's all about how it looks, and without the main ingredients, it's all about the total finish. If it looks lovely, blah, blah, blah. They skip out how to get there properly now, I feel. And that is why there are so many hairdressers out there, which, I mean, I've not come across a hairdresser now, and I'm sure you're the same, Mark, which isn't award-winning. Yeah, every hairdresser now is award-winning, and there is thousands of awards now. Now, which is the award which gives you the integrity? Which is the award that you should win? Yeah, and I feel there's hundreds of awards, which is great because everyone enters these awards, but everyone now is an award-winning hairdresser.
Moving on to customers, you come across good. I know a lot of loyal customers, but what about those difficult ones? I mean, what do you do to keep them coming back, and how would you advise, again, somebody perhaps not your experience, to deal with a bloody awful customer?
I honestly believe, and I'd say this, and I've taught this as well when we've done customer care, the first 2 minutes with a client is the most important. And those first 2 minutes, they know, by the time they've left your 2-minute consultation from your chair, they know when they're at that backwash, oh my God, am I going to have a good time here? Or, oh my God, what am I doing sat here? It's all about the personality, Your personality. We're in an industry where personality sells. I've worked with top hairdressers that, you know, they pick up the hair, they give it all the snip, snip, blow. They're amazing, beautiful hairdressers, fantastic cutters. But if you haven't got the personality and the genuineness that you can have that rapport with your client, you will never build. And for me, I prefer girls with great personality and that can chat rather than the ones that are quiet. I like the ones that give me, you know, verbal diarrhea, that when they're training, they're a little bit gobby. You know, they're the ones that I want as my future stylist, because I know they can bounce off people and they're great at interaction. And I think the most important thing with hairdressing is interaction and making that client feel comfortable straight away.
No, good advice. And again, with team members, staff, it's a very difficult time for owners and, of course, team members in the lockdown. What advice do you have for people in your position running small, medium, larger business on dealing with their teams?
I think, you know, the word fair comes to mind. And I'm sure most of the salon owners I know, they're fair with their teams. And what they've got to remember, and I don't mean this in a disrespectful way, but their team, some might, but the majority of their team don't really care. All they care about is that they're getting paid while they're on down in these times. And you are kind of the person that is looking after them, and they're just checking their bank account each month. They want to make sure it's there because they've got bills to pay. And you've got to understand that. You know, you've got to take, oh, but I've done this for them, for that for them. You've got to take the emotional part out of it, because they're struggling just like us. I mean, I pay myself dividends, so I don't get anything, you know, from the government. And my staff, my big earners are on £45,000 a year. They're getting £2,500 a month with no outgoings. They're not going out. They're not eating in nice restaurants. So a lot of my team are saying to me, oh, we've never had so much money. It's fantastic. It's brilliant, you know. But I do feel you need to liaise with your team, because what you don't want is a team that are all sleeping. I call them, you know, don't want to work anymore because they've had all this time off and they're getting used to it. So you have to keep the plate rolling and speaking with them and how you're doing and how you're coping. You're looking forward to going back. It's so important. Dialogue again.
Got a question from Kai Wan, who I know you know. He's saying, what's your view on the salon owners having to be responsible for the mental health of their teams and employees, whilst the salon owner at home, when they're earning 80% of their wage, whilst the salon owner very often under tremendous stress with no income? You touched on that.
I think that's a great question, Kai. Thanks for that, mate. But, you know, I think everybody's suffering some way with a little bit of anxiety. I mean, me and my brothers, one week it's Simon's a little bit down, another week it's Aaron, the other week it was me. And with the team, I mean, I do these TikTok, you know, my wife makes those little TikTok stories of me dancing around, putting my head on top, half naked, and we play it out to the team, make them laugh, and they put feedback on the group. Oh, that's funny. It's made me laugh today. But at the end of the day, I always say you can drag the donkey to the trough, but you can't make them drink it. They have to do it themselves. You are responsible for yourself at the end of the day. You've got to try and kind of motivate yourself, train, keep your head spinning, because if you think of all the bad thoughts, it just gets on top of you. And I'm one of these people. I don't let the breeze wrecks build up on me. I kind of shrug them off and I move on. And I think in life, not everyone can do that, but you've got to be able to go forward each time. And I always think of worse things. There is always people so much worse off. You've got a house, you've got heating, you've got a cup of tea. Okay, we've got to stay in, but so what? There's people in Syria which are still being bombed and murdered daily. So for me, I just think you have to keep positive. But I do feel social media, the news, it doesn't help, because everybody picks up on every little thing. They're ramming down it with the children being depressed and anxious. You know, my grandfather was in the war. They got through it. He made a great life of himself. But I do feel now with social media, everything is kind of exaggerated, you know, tenfold. I feel if I'm at home with my children, it's fantastic. My brother Marcus has got 2 small children. He's absolutely loving it, having to spend time with him. I think you've got to look at the other side rather than take the negative side. Always look at the positive.
with the vaccines, and hopefully there's a route out of lockdown fairly soon, what opportunities do you see for the hairdressing sector towards the back end of this year and in the future?
Well, I hope, I mean, I was talking to Jane earlier, I hope that when we come out of this, March, end of March, beginning of April, that it's sustained for a good, 4 to 6 month period. What I'm afraid of is that we're on this roller coaster where we open for a couple of months, we go down and close again for a couple of months. I just want sustainability from the government and that we stay open, hopefully, fingers crossed. For hairdressers, I think it's, I don't want to put it down, but it's going to be harder. I honestly believe we're going to be 20, 30% down with clients because we've got a clientele now which are used to doing their own hair at home. We've got a clientele base now that's scared to go out and mix with other people. So I do feel you're going to have to spend more time on each client with the PPE, with all the washing down. You're going to have to charge. You're going to have to give them more value. You already give them great value, but you're going to have to up the ante. If you're serving them at a 10, you've got to make sure it's a 12 now. Everything is going to have to be reinforced and done even better, in my opinion.
Bruno, we're out of time. Last question. What do you think it takes to be a successful entrepreneur or business owner? What's the quality?
Do you know, that word entrepreneur, is people like Richard Branson. I'm just, I say this, I'm a hairdresser at the end of the day. And I feel it's about having the passion, following your goals, and you've got to take risks sometimes. And going back to Teo, I invested £250,000 in that. When I think now I could have invested that £250,000 and bought 5 houses, and it most probably would have made me, quadruple return. But do I have any regrets on it? No. It's part of the journey and it's made me what I am. And I feel in business, I'm now 57 years old. I've learned so much along the way. And my father always said to me when he handed me over the business, when I was 33, he said, "You think you know it all." And I actually did. And he said, "Wait until you're in your 50s, then you'll realize." Because he said, my father told me one thing. When I was in my 20s, I was a know-all and I knew everything. When I was in my 30s, I still knew everything and I was a know-all. But when you get in your 50s, you realize everything your father said was right and you knew nothing. And, that's been my mantra. I honestly feel the knowledge I've got now, I give it out and I share it to so many young hairdressers like Joey Ferraro, Leanne Regan, all people that have been in my fame team that have opened up salons. I've helped them. I've given them advice. I've given them systems and procedures because there was no one there that did that for me. I learned as I was going. Whereas now I've got all these systems and procedures in place, I can share it. And I've got no worries about giving my systems and procedures and sharing with people because I've always believed that there's someone up there that the more I give, they look after me. So that's how I've been.
Bruno Giamattei of Marc Antoni. Our time's up. Thank you so much. It's gone so quickly. All the best to you. Thank you for joining. It has. Always quick.
Cheers.
Take care. Bye-bye.